So, are we all looking forward to seeing the movie set today? Yeah, me too. Now, be honest, how many of you have actually watched the Lord of the Rings films before? Give me a show of hands. I just want to know who we are. Excellent. Who's seen the Hobbit films? Pretty good. All right. Who's read the books? Oh, we lost a few people. It's all right. Is there anyone who hasn't seen the movies or read any of the books? No shaming of missing it either. 1, 2, 3. There we go. I lied. Shame on you. No, I'm only joking. 40% of our visitors have no idea what we are talking about. They've never read the books. They've never seen the movies. Hobbiton is now so well known that thousands of people are told that they have to come here. They just don't know why. Quite amazing. So as you can imagine, we do get asked some very interesting questions. My favourite is, did hobbits really live in New Zealand thousands of years ago? So people just don't get it. But, now, if you do have any questions today, feel free to fire them away when we get down on set. And my name is Luke. I'm going to be looking after you. And it is going to take a few minutes to drive down to Hobbiton. We'll be taking a journey through the Alexander family farm, which is the property right in front of the bus. You can see the rolling green hills. Looks like the hobbits have taken to the skies as well. So the farm is 1,250 acres. The Alexander family have been looking after this land since 1978. And they've got 400 Aberdeen beef cattle and about 10,000 of these little fluffy white dots, the Romney sheep. And funnily enough, they all lined up for the auditions to appear in the background shots in the movies. And this is a true story. Peter Jackson didn't like the look of them. He thought these sheep were a bit too modern for Middle Earth, so he asked the Alexanders to clear them all out of view whenever they were filming. And they did bring in some stunt sheep from the South Island. It was the Suffolk breed that they used, and they were specially trained for camera as well. So sadly our girls are not movie stars. There you go. But if you look out to the right, you can see the homestead on the top of the hill. It was 24 years ago that the Alexander family was sat down in their living room watching a rugby game on the TV, and there came a knock on the door, which initially annoyed Ian Alexander, the head of the family, but he got up out of his chair, opened the door, and there was a man called David Comer, who was a location scout for a Kiwi filmmaker called Peter Jackson. And Ian had no idea who this was, didn't really care who he was. And he told the scout, you can have a look around the farm if you want to, but just close the gates and don't mix up my sheep. And that was the last time he ever thought he was going to hear from this guy. And anyway, 6 weeks later, there came another knock on the door, and this time it was Peter Jackson himself. And he brought all the producers and the concept artists and the art directors, and they pretty much decided that they had found the perfect spot to build their film set. They were looking all across New Zealand. And there was 3 distinctive features which really sealed the deal for them here on this farm, and I'm going to point them out to you a little bit later on. So you can enjoy the views as we drive down this track, and we do have a nice little introductory video for you. You'll be hearing from our founding members, so enjoy.
Hello, I just wanted to welcome you on your journey to Hobbiton. I'm very, very pleased that you're able to take the time to go visit our set. It's great when you're making a movie, everything's so temporary. The film survives, but the sets and the costumes and the props that we make, that they all just get thrown away. And so I'm delighted that Hobbiton has managed to survive, and I'm really pleased that you're taking the time to visit it, and I hope that you enjoy yourself. It's been years ago that we flying around in a helicopter and found the Alexander farm from the air, and it, for some reason from the air it looked right, and when we landed it was absolutely perfect, as I'm sure you'll see for yourselves. So thank you very much to the Alexander family for their brilliant support over the years, and especially to Russell, who has been the greatest business partner to have, and as you'll see yourself, doing a fantastic job, making you very welcome. So thank you and enjoy yourselves.
From the entire Alexander family and everyone here on
So there we are, we just heard from our two boss hobbits. Now I assume that we all know who Peter Jackson is, don't we? We're all familiar with him. If you're not sure, he was the homeless looking guy just on screen. But he's actually very important to us, as you can imagine. Now Russell Alexander is Ian's son, so Ian is now retired, or semi-retired. And Russell created these tours. It's actually back in 2002, so it's our 20th anniversary this year. And it all started with the hardcore Tolkien fans who were flocking to New Zealand dressed as their favourite characters. And they were trespassing all across the fields here. They just wanted to see where Hobbiton used to be. So, so many people ended up turning up that the Alexanders thought, well, we might as well charge something for it. So they actually spent a long time negotiating with New Line just to gain permission to run a very basic tour of the remnant site. So there was no film set left at the end of Lord of the Rings, but you could still see some of the little retaining walls, and it was really just sharing the stories of how the set was built and what happened out there. And by the time Peter Jackson wanted to come back and film The Hobbit, 60,000 people a year were coming to this farm. It had emerged as one of the biggest tourist attractions in the district. So if you look out to the right, you can see what happened when they returned. They spent 2 years rebuilding the whole set, and this time they made everything out of permanent materials. So you can see the old mill and the double arch stone bridge. If you have seen the movies, you might remember Gandalf rides over that bridge at one point, Fellowship of the Ring. And by the way, you are more than welcome to reenact any of your favourite scenes when you're down on set. This is a nerd-friendly zone, as we say. About an hour and 15 minutes, we'll be walking over that bridge together. And I can play Gandalf if you want, and you can play the horse if you're into that sort of thing. But my favourite place is the Green Dragon Inn, which is just on the other side of that bridge. So it's a fully furnished interior with real wood carvings and fireplaces. And we also have a range of drinks that are brewed especially for us. And one of them is complimentary as well. It's never too early for a drink in my book. Now just off to the right here is the headquarters of our never-resting maintenance team. We've got gardeners, landscapers, set decorators, painters and various contractors who actually worked on the movies. So they look after Hobbiton today. We've got 44 permanent Hobbit holes that was left behind. And the whole set is about 12.5 acres. So on screen you can see some of the work that went on behind the scenes. Back in the day there was 150 unit vehicles parked everywhere. A minimum of 300 crew members driving up and down this road. And for the original temporary set that was built for Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson was able to call in a very special favour, and he got the New Zealand Defence Force involved. So they did all the major earthworks down on set, and they actually built the road that we've been driving down as well. That's Leroy the pig, by the way. It's one of several animals which were used in the background shots when they were filming. And if you look out to the left here, that paddock used to be a hill, very similar to the one just further up. And the locations team flattened it out so they could park all of their caravans and trailers and workshops. And they had about 100 background hobbits who would arrive at 4 a.m. in the morning alongside the main stars like Elijah Wood and Martin Freeman and so on. And it took them an hour to transform them into their characters. So you had your hair, wigs, makeup, costumes, prosthetics. And there was no excuse for a skinny hobbit on set either, so of course the food hall was open all day. We've got breakfast, second breakfast, 11th is lunch, dinner and supper. But if you look out to the left one more time, You see all the old pine trees on the top of the hill. Sir Ian McKellen arrived on the Alexander farm in January 2000, and he filmed his very first scene playing Gandalf out there, day one. And the scene they filmed is quite well known to fans as well, so we're going to play the clip for you. If you know the words, don't be shy.
A wizard has never been engaged. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
Now just make sure not to leave anything behind on the bus.